D, wait for it, light bulb.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
What's up, nerds? So, they last night I watched Superman Lois episode 5, and I want to just say the show is still good. However, this episode, okay, last week I said that, or at least I think I said that the show has a good balance of action and emotion slash, dialogue slash, explanation scenes and all that stuff. This episode was a lot more explanation and a little less action than I would have wanted, and they're really trying to tug at the heartstrings and the feels and all that stuff, which I totally get, but at the same time I just go, cool, but you did that last episode, and they just keep doing what I think is the same thing. I feel is the same thing, and I understand they're trying to, touch on this whole Lois has cancer situation. But for me personally, I just go you're just really trying to really make me cry every episode. I mean, they make me tear up. I'm not out crying just yet, but I don't know. This is the thing. It's not a bad show. It's actually pretty good. I'm just I mean, right now Superman's taking a back seat a little bit, I feel, and I just need a little bit more, if that makes sense. I'm gonna break this sucker down and give you my opinion of certain things as we go along. I don't think this will take too much time, just because this episode was a little, just one note kind of thing. So we'll get through it as much as possible. But before I do, you guys, I just want to say that if you like what I do here and you enjoy independent content here on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my channel. YouTube is always changing up their algorithm, and small channels like mine, we just keep getting pushed to the back of the line. So please ask that you like, share, and subscribe, and I thank you in advance. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, let's get started on breaking down this episode. So it starts off, they're packing up stuff, and the kids are talking. And she's talking about how she's going to go for her second round of chemo, but she's going to Mannheim's hospital in Hobbs Bay, or South Metropolis, they say, and later on. And she wants to be a chaperone at their Valentine's Day dance. And they're like, "Are you sure you're going to be ready for it?" And she's all like, "Yeah." And he's like, they're all like, "Well, you were exhausted last time." And she's like, "I was exhausted the day before. Sorry, the day after. But now I'm going to, I'll be fine for the night. And it's really important to me that I go." While she's doing this, the girlfriend comes in. She's like, "Thank you so much for helping me find a dress and all that stuff. I really appreciate it," and everything. So then Daddy Lane, he comes over and he's got some RVs. He's like, "Thanks for letting us use your land." And he's talking about Natalie, because she's coming over and they're going to ride these RVs all over the place. And he tells Clark, "Hey, I understand that Lois wants to get this story and she wants to get Mannheim, but, she needs to focus on her and beating this cancer." And he's right. He's right. Lois is not taking this seriously, or not taking this seriously enough. And so she gets in the car and they go over to the Mannheim, the Hobbs Bay, this cancer treatment center. And they plug her in and they look at this wall and everything. And this is the part where you're just like, man, they're really trying to get you to cry this season, like almost every episode. And I liked this. Hold on, let me see. He looks at her and right there, I'm just like, oh my goodness, pull at my heartstrings. So then she's sitting here and everything, gets all plugged in. And then I can't remember what he says. He's like, yeah, I think he says, "You doing okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You doing okay?" And he's like, "Yeah." So then these two are chilling out. She's like, "I'm really glad that we got this meal together. We could have some time." And she's like, "What?" She's like, "I was just saying." And she's like, "Hold on," and everything. And then she's like, "Oh crap, I gotta go." And this kid's Junior. This is Junior apparently. And she's like, "Hey, Junior," and this is Mayor Dean's son. Now, I don't remember him from any other episode or season, so I'm just like, well, I mean, I think Dean mentioned that he had a kid. And so he comes up and he's all like, I can't remember. He's upset, but he's like, you cheated when you beat my dad as the mayor. And she's like, no, she didn't. She's like, hey man, we're friends. He's like, we haven't talked in like 2 years. And so people are upset with her. Some people are upset with her over Dean. So then these two are going on these little tracks or whatnot. And she's like, yeah, I had a good time, and all this stuff. And then he's like, hey, I found somebody in town. It's Mateo. Mateo came from Metropolis. And so then these two, she's all like, listen, she's like, you're going to cover for me while I go snooping around. She's like, it's the perfect cover. I'm a patient. Nobody's going to suspect me of anything. And she grabs this little file. And then back in the basement, he's all like, I need more of this stuff. And he's like, you'll get what I give you. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I need it to survive. And he's like, you know what to do. He's like, yeah. He puts on this mask. I don't like this costume that he's got on, but at the same time, I don't make the costumes. I mean, this part is fine, but it's the face mask that I'm like, I don't really care for it. And then we'll show it. He phases into the wall. He phases. That's his thing. He phases. Okay. So then he's all like, who's this guy? I don't like him. He's like, he's a cool dude. And he's like, you didn't do any protocol checking with him. And I'm all like, hey, dude, they're like 16. You need to calm down. Okay. And he's like, who's that dude? And he's like my grandpa, but he's not my grandpa, but he's kind of like my grandpa, but like whatever. It doesn't even matter. He's like my adopted family. So he's like, I just want to hang out with you tonight. You want to go to the movie theater? And she's like, I can't. I got to go to a dance. He's like, and you already have a date. And she's like, no, it's just for formal. And he's like, I'll buy a suit. Let's just check out a suit. So then these two are like, these two ladies are patients. And they're like, you're Lois Lane's husband, famous Lois Lane. And they're like, how are you doing? He's like, fine. And they're like, oh. They're like, have a seat. And they're like, you're like a spouse, like a regular spouse and everything. So she's going to the hospital. She runs into a nurse, and the nurse is like, can I help you? And she's like, I had to drop off some lab results. And she's like, yeah, down the hall and to the left. Steal my badge. And then Kyle is on the side of the road with a flat tire. And Jonathan pulls over and he's like, you doing all right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, it's like a dozen cars passed me. You're the only one that pulled over. And he's like, I just want to make sure everything's okay. And he's like, that's my job. He's like, we are looking for volunteers down at the station if you want to, maybe volunteers. He's like, well, I work throughout the week. And he's like, what about your weekends? He's like, yeah, that'd be great. I can volunteer. Maybe that's my path in life. And me, I go two things. One, I go, you can't pull over these days. It might be a freaking psycho ready to chop your face off. This day and age, and I mean, listen, I will tell you an example of how things go. You can't, I feel like this day and age, you can't be nice anymore. You can't stop on the side of the road and help anybody change a tire. And it saddens me because there are plenty of times where I would like to help out, but it's like, I don't know you. And here's a story for you. And I'll just give me 20 seconds of your time. It was right after work. It was nighttime. It was the day before Father's Day. And pulled in this gas station. This guy was in the front and everything. And he said hi. And I was like, hey, man. And I went in, bought whatever I needed to do. And then he was all like, hey, where are you headed to? And I told him where I was headed. And he's like, oh, man, can you give me a ride? And I was like, no. I was like, dude, I don't know you, man. He's like, and then he was like, I don't have anything on me, man. I was like, yeah. And the fact that you said that even worries me even more. And I was like, listen, man, I'm sorry, but I don't know you. And I mean, he's like, come on. He's like, he's like, it's Father's Day tomorrow. And I was like, exactly. It's Father's Day tomorrow. And I want to make sure I get home to my kids. I was like, I'm sorry, dude. I was like, I can't be giving you a ride. I don't know you and everything. And that's the problem. If this was like 10 years ago, I probably would have just gave him a ride. But in this day and age, I don't know what's going down. It's just weird. It's a bad place. I hate where we're at. So he's excited about volunteering at the station. So then she's sitting here talking to Chrissy, and she's like, he was so mad at me, and he blamed me. And she's like, listen, he's not the only one. You were Dean's political rival. People blame you for what happened to him. She's like, yeah, but if people knew how corrupt he was and how much he stole from the people of this town, they would not think the same. She's like, the files I have, the evidence I have on him. And she's all like, well, if you want, I could write it up in the Gazette and people will know the person that he really is. And she's like, yeah, this sounds good. Getting back at a dead man and everything. I'm like, oh, you need to calm it down. You don't need to go after a dead dude. Okay, so then they're talking to him, and this woman, she had cancer before, and it came back. So this is her second time fighting cancer, and then this woman, she said she's been on both sides of the chair. This is her time to be in it, and the first time was with her daughter, who ended up losing her life, and it's really sad. Like I said last, and I think the time before that, I think everybody knows somebody that has had cancer. And I think that this day and age, it's just hard not to find somebody that's been touched by cancer. And it really sucks. I wish they would just find the cure already. I mean, we're pumping so much money into it. So then she does this and she's like, oh, don't worry about it. That's just the chemo kicking in. And he's like, I'm really sorry about your daughter. She's like, me too. Because she said she would have been 37 tomorrow or something like that. And she's like, so young. And she's like, yeah, the doctors, they didn't know either. So she breaks into Mannheim's office and she's looking through his files, and Mannheim walks in and he's like, you just come into my hospital and you try to take my files. She's like, I know you. Nothing goes down in South Metropolis that doesn't benefit you. And he's all like, she's like, I want to know where Dr. Oppo is, and he's like, you want to know what's going down here? And he opens up this thing. This is my research facility. He's like, come on, I want to show you some stuff. So here they are, the Loyal Order of the Bison Lounge, and this is where they're having their dance and everything. Lucky them. And he's all like, I can't remember what he says here, but Nat shows up with her date. She's like, you came. Come on, I have so much to talk to you guys. And so they're talking to him about. Okay, so they're talking to him. This one says, she's like, your wife can't sit still. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, that's going to be good for her later on. And he's like, how so? And she's like, because you get what everybody's got a new name for it, but I call it the pull. And it's like when this thing, it takes every piece of you. It takes every piece of you to fight. It takes your strength. It takes, your time, your looks, all this stuff. And she's like, and you just get that pull to stop trying and just give in to the disease. And she's like, and your wife needs everything she's got to not go to the pull or whatever, to be pulled into that. And the nurse comes in, she's like, you ladies doing okay? And she's like, yeah, we're doing good. So then the mayor Lana, she gets up there and she's like, hey guys, so the mole problem is taken care of, and by next week you guys are going to get back to your normal lives. Well, Junior doesn't like that and he leaves. She's like, have a good dance. So then Sarah goes out to the parking lot to help him out, and he's like, hey, and she's like, I got a call from my aunt, and she lives somewhere 4 hours away, and she's like, but we'll be able to hang out on the weekends. See each other on the weekends. He's like, yeah, the weekends. So then these two are talking, and he tries to kiss her, and she's like, X-nay on that, oops, gay. And he's like, yeah, I thought he was a cool dude. He goes out to hang out with her or whatever. So he talks about how his mother got sick and there was nothing he could do because nobody wanted to help a poor woman from suicide slums. And he's like, so I'm trying to cure cancer, basically. And so he's like, I'll have all the files from Dr. Oppo sent over to you. I'll have them collect all the and get delivered to you or whatnot. There's her husband. And so then she's like, I'm going to go through all those. And he's like, don't you need to calm down? So he goes to Kyle and he's like, something came up and my weekends aren't free. And he's like, oh, you rather, and Kyle's kind of a douche because he doesn't ask him anything. He just assumes. He's like, oh, you would rather have your weekends. Well, you need to figure out what's more important, buddy, whatever you got going on or this volunteering thing. And he's like, okay. I was like, a little harsh. And so she's all like, he's like, you want me to go kick that dude's butt? And she's like, no. She's like, I've never been kissed before. I've never even went on a date. And she's like, so I was a little nervous kind of thing. He's like, hey, I haven't dated since my wife left me. And I'm like, what's going on here? This is like the dating lives of everybody on this show, which I'm like, I'm not interested in this. So yeah. So then she sits down. She's like, hey, I know we haven't talked in a while. She's like, but you left. And I just wanted to see if you were okay. And he's been drinking, and he's like, I just miss my dad. I really miss my dad. And that's really sad. I'm like, that's a bummer. Yeah. So then he's talking to her, and he's like, hey, that volunteer thing, it's on the weekends. And she's all like, I can't. She's like, and then she's all like, listen, I know long distance relationships don't work. She's like, but we can make it work. She's like, you do your volunteering on the weekends and we will figure something else out. And he's like, I love you. And she's like, I love you too. And I'm all like, oh, get out of here with your high school nonsense. And he's like, when you were younger, were dances this boring? And she's like, yes. And I'm all like, no. I remember my high school dances. I had fun. I had so much fun. It was so good. I loved it. Even though high school sucked. She's like, have you seen Sarah? She's like, yeah, I think she went out to the parking lot. And so she's like, oh, she's gonna find out about it. So he goes and he's like, I'm gonna need your help. So he starts dancing. He actually does a pretty good job. Let's see. He's like, yeah, he does that. I don't like that. And then he's like, yeah, he's doing all right. He's doing okay. I mean, whatever. He does start playing the electric guitar, which is, with the air guitar. And I'm all like, oh, that's such an old man thing to do. I'm not doing that ever. So she comes out and she starts dancing with him, and everybody starts dancing and everything. It's super fun. She's like, you're not dressed. Get ready to go. And he's like, listen, I think that we need to stay here and we need to talk about this. I have an opinion on this too. And I know that you're the one fighting this, but we need to sit down and think. And she's all like, yes, and we will. But she's like, it is really important to me that we go to this dance. She's like, so, and if you want to go, get dressed. So he's like, okay. So then back at the DOD, this dude, Translucent Man, breaks in and gets this generator. He's like, I want all your secrets. And me, I would have been like, no secrets for you. And so he's like, listen, she's like, I can't remember what she says here, but he's like, I really think we should talk about this. And she's like, okay. And she's like, I'm listening. And then he's like, I'll be right back. He's like, don't go anywhere. So he flies over there, and she gives her eye thing, and then he pushes her out of the way, and then he's downloading all this stuff. Oh, hold on. Well, let's see what it says. X Kryptonite, Eradication Machine, B6 Alt. Yeah. They're all ones in New York. Okay. So then Superman comes in and he's fighting him, but the dudes, then they're transferring the stuff. But anyways, this dude's fighting him and he's going through him and he's stabbing him with a Krypton knife. And he's slicey him. So this part was pretty cool, this fight sequence, but it was very short. And his powers start waning because the juice, it's not working. So, but he ends up punching him. And he lands into the wall, and he's like stuck in there. He's like, oh, and everything. So then he's like, too late, Superman. Transfer complete. So back at the dance, she comes in. She's like, hey, listen. She's like, it's not you, it's me. Can we just start where we left off? And I don't know if they kiss or whatnot. He's all like, you want a sip of my beverage? And so she takes a sip, and she's like, and he's like, yeah, my dad liked the cheap stuff and everything. And the mom comes out, and she's all like, Junior, go inside. She's like, drinking? She's like, Mom, he was having a bad day. I came out here. He just misses his dad, and I haven't been a very good friend to him. And she's like, fine. But the next time you want to do this, can you please not include alcohol? Which is a good choice, although I would have grounded my child. I don't care what they were trying to do. So he gets home, and she's like, you're right. She's like, I just wanted to go and see my kids, dance. And I think this is because she thinks that if she dies, she wanted to have these last memories before. And I do think that Lois is going to die this season. And I think that Mannheim with all his Superman research and bringing people back to life, I think that he's going to bring her back to life with Superman's blood or whatnot. And we'll figure out, I mean, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it'll be super sad too. I'll cry probably. So then everybody gets home and she's like, oh, I missed it. She's like, did you guys at least get pictures? She's like, oh my God, no. And she's like, oh, I wanted to see everybody dressed up and dancing. He's like, oh, well, hey. And so he turns on the music and he's like, shall we dance? She's like, you shall and everything. And she's like, you better dance with me. And then he's like, if you're asking me to dance, no. And he's like, listen, I got you on senior swipe, old man. Get that old vagina. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you haven't had any for 30 years. Come on, dude. He's like, can I cut in? And she's like, oh, you washed your hair. And I was like, ew, gross, Jordan. You don't wash your hair. So then these two are in bed. And she's like, you were really great last night. Give me that good D. And he's like, yeah, you were pretty good too, and everything. And I'm all like, she's like, your ex-wife is texting me. She wants to meet up. And so they go and meet. And she's like, what's the matter? And she's like, I don't want you to print that story about Dean. She's like, it won't help. It'll hurt more than it will help. She's like, and she's like, but he did so many bad things. She's like, yeah, but she's like, it really won't help the community. She's like, so instead, I'm going to name the new whatever building after him. And she's like, the James Dean Memorial, hall or whatever. And so they're getting her ready. She's like, thanks so much for everything. She's like, you always have a place here. She's like, be good to your brother. She's like, you're the sweetest and everything. And they get in, they take her away. And he's like, hey, I need to talk to you. They found out where all of our DOD secret stuff is stashed. And they're like, what did they take? And they're like, they took something important. And he's like, it's like him, but like dead. And they got Bizarro. And I'm all like, oh man, they got the dead body of Bizarro. They're going to bring Bizarro back. I was like, that's good. Daddy likes this a lot. And that's where the episode ends. And like I said before, good episode, but very like emotionally, like not very like action packed and everything. We just got the one fight, which was fine. But I think that what works with this is it's not just a villain of the week kind of show. And I feel like they're trying to do that because we had the first dude, the episode with the superpowers. And then we've got Onomatopoeia, which I'm pretty sure will return. And in this episode, we got the translucent guy. And not translucent. He evaporates, not evaporates. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just like, I just need a little bit more action and a lot more loving, if you please. Or a little less talk, a lot more action. Yeah, no, it wasn't bad. It was a good episode. It's just a little bit of this season is a little bit of a slow burn, if you get what I'm saying. So maybe next episode, because we now introduced Bizarro, we'll get a little bit more of that. Tell me what you guys thought about this episode. Did you guys like it? Did you not like it? How do you feel this season is going so far? Do you think they're focusing too heavily on the cancer stuff and the emotional grabs at people? Or do you think it's a good thing that they do that, and it's you like it a lot? But yeah, tell me what you guys think. You can go ahead and leave all your comments in that section down below. If you like this video, go and hit that like button. I won't mind. If you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you guys on my next Superman and Lois breakdown and review. You guys have a good week. Bye.